Hey, what's up? It's Symphony here. Subscribe to my brother Mr. Creepy as Hell channel, and when you're watching his videos, make sure you stay in one piece.
This happened to me one day. I was getting off from work. I work as a nurse, and I was working a straight 24-hour shift. And when I got off, it was around 1 o'clock a.m. I haven't eaten nothing the whole day, besides maybe a couple of chips, but that really didn't do anything. I was extremely hungry, and most of the restaurants as I was driving by were closed, except for this restaurant. The restaurant I came upon was a diner, actually, and it was called Miss Maggie's. And it was open. It said open 24 hours. So I was actually happy because I was extremely hungry and I wanted to get me something to eat. I got out of my car and I walked into Mrs. Maggie's. I noticed the place felt kind of creepy. I don't know how to explain it. The lights were kind of dim and flickering, and I was the only one in the diner. There was no one at the front register, no one around. I thought maybe it was closed until I heard a voice call out to me.
Well, hi. Welcome to Mrs. Maggie's Diner. I'm Miss Maggie. Why don't you take a seat right there and I'll get you a menu, sweetheart. All right?
Oh, okay, thank you. I'll just sit right here. It was something about her smile that was a little unsettling, but I just assumed that's just how she smiles. And besides, she was very welcoming. A few minutes later, I decided what I wanted to order, and I told Miss Maggie, and she went behind the kitchen and started to make my meal. About 20 minutes later had passed, she came out with my meal, and the food was good. She made some really decent food. I ordered me pancakes, eggs, and sausage, and the way she made it, it tasted so good. I'd never tasted anything like it before. I complimented her on it, and I told her, I gotta say, Miss Maggie, you make some really good food. I'm loving this. I think I'm gonna come back every time I get off my shift if you stay open 24 hours.
Well, you know what, ma'am? I appreciate that. Come by as many times as you like. If you ever hungry, Miss Maggie will take care of you.
After she got done telling me that, I finished up my food and I left. The next day, when I got off from work, it was around 1 o'clock in the morning, and I came to Miss Maggie's diner. When I came into her diner, something was a little bit different here. At first, I didn't see Miss Maggie. I sat down at the booth where I sat at last time, and I waited for her, but she didn't come. And then finally, I heard a voice call out to me. It was Miss Maggie, and she said,
I'll be right with you in just a moment. Give me a few minutes.
I don't know, maybe it was just me, but it seemed like her tone changed from last time when I came into her diner. It seemed like she was just very tired. I didn't take it personally. She probably was. I mean, she owns this diner, and she obviously has to go through a lot of stress running the diner and everything, so I paid no mind to it. I sat down, and 10 minutes had passed, and Miss Maggie came out with the restaurant menu. But I can tell she looked different and acted different than previously before. She looked more tired, looked more irritable, and looked more stressed out.
Here's your menu. Go ahead and see what you want.
She said to me in a sharp voice. I looked at the menu and I ordered the same thing I had last time. When I told her that this was going to be my order, she didn't say nothing. She was really acting different. Yesterday when I ordered this, she told me that it was a good choice, and she had a conversation about other things while she was getting my order together. But now, she's just acting like a totally different person. She took my order and she went in the back. About an hour later, she came back with my pancakes and eggs and sausage. I noticed that the eggs looked a little different. Maybe it was because of the hot sauce, but I didn't pay it no mind. I grabbed the syrup to pour on my pancakes, and I noticed the syrup had a different color to it. It wasn't the light brown or whatever color it normally is. It looked more like it was a bit more redder. I couldn't tell. Maybe it was just me. Maybe it was a different flavor of syrup. But regardless, I poured it on my pancakes and I started to eat. As I was eating, I noticed that the syrup tasted a bit more sweeter. and I noticed that the eggs that were a little bit more redder tasted a little better. So regardless, I thought maybe the woman was just stressed out that she had to do so much. And plus, it looks like she only is here by herself and she doesn't have any other workers. As I was continuing to eat my food, I noticed there was a weird smell, and it was coming from the kitchen diner. I got up and I looked over the kitchen diner through the little stool, and that's where the smell was really getting strong at. I tried to call out for Miss Maggie. Miss Maggie, I don't know if you know this, but there's a really foul smell coming from the kitchen. Is everything okay? No response. Hello? Miss Maggie? Do you hear me? Once again, it was silence. So, that's when I done something that I shouldn't have never done. I decided to hop over the counter, and I decided to walk into the kitchen myself to try to get Miss Maggie's attention. Little did I know, this was going to be a very huge mistake, and I regret doing this. I wish I could have just ran instead of trying to be curious and trying to solve a mystery like the Scooby-Doo game. But anyway, once I hopped over the counter, I walked into the diner's kitchen. As I walked, everything looked normal. Plates were stacked up neat, plates were clean, everything was organized. But that smell was even more stronger. It was so strong to the point I almost wanted to puke. It was like a rotten smell of decay and rot. As I got closer, I saw there was a big refrigerator, or a freezer, and the smell really illuminated from the freezer. I cracked the door open, and that's when I heard Miss Maggie humming. I noticed that she was doing something in the freezer. I looked it closer, and what I saw had me running out of the restaurant while vomiting. There in the kitchen, I saw a dead body in the freezer. Miss Maggie was cutting up something on his body, or something out of his body. And when I looked to see what was going on, I also saw that his head was cut open, and she was digging through his brains. But the brains looked similar to something. I looked at it and I realized it was those so-called eggs that were on my plate that I was eating. I ate a human brain, and to make matters even worse was the blood from that corpse. She was pouring it inside of a syrup bottle, and she was adding sugar to it. I couldn't take it anymore. I gagged real loud, and I began to vomit as I was running out of the diner. I already knew that Miss Maggie probably heard me. As I was vomiting, I was making my way to the car, leaving a trail of vomit from the diner all the way up to my car. When I got in my car, I still felt like I had to vomit. I put my head out and I continued to retch until I knew everything was out of my system. After I got done retching, I looked up and I saw a very disturbing scene. Miss Maggie, she was standing by the window watching me while holding a severed head and waving her fingers slowly at me while giving this creepy, unsettling, bone-chilling smile. It reeked with creepiness. I started my car and I drove off. I called the police and I reported to them what I saw. But the next day when they got there, the diner was no more. Instead, it was a run-down pizza place that stopped business about 30 years ago. They told me that there was never a diner there, but I know for a fact what I witnessed. I went to a restaurant called Miss Maggie's Diner.